I never thought a simple walk down the hallway could make my heart pound like this. The house was quiet, as it usually was at night, but something in the stillness felt off. Jason's door was slightly ajar, and a faint light spilled into the corridor, painting stripes on the polished wooden floor. I paused, my fingers brushing the doorknob, unsure whether curiosity or dread had pulled me here. Jason, my stepson, had always been private, a young man of 19 who wore silence like armor. He wasn't unfriendly, just guarded. I had watched him grow, always careful to respect boundaries, to let him feel safe in a home that had never been entirely his own. And yet tonight, the faint sound of shuffling papers, or was it footsteps, sent an unfamiliar tension rippling through me. I glanced around the hallway, half expecting an intruder, half expecting nothing at all. The house smelled faintly of jasmine from the diffuser in the living room, a scent meant to calm, now only intensifying my unease. Something was happening in Jason's room while he slept, something I wasn't meant to see. And irrational though it felt, I had to know. I am Laura, a woman in my late 20s, navigating the fragile intricacies of a blended family. My husband had a son from a previous marriage, Jason, and our lives had slowly intertwined, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes warmly. I prided myself on being observant, on reading the subtle shifts in the people around me, but nothing in my careful watching had prepared me for this night. The light from the slightly open door revealed scattered papers across the floor, and a notebook lay half hidden beneath the bed. My pulse quickened. There was an energy in the room, a secret hovering just out of reach, like a held breath waiting to escape. I stepped closer, compelled despite the warnings screaming in my mind. The letters, the notes, they weren't just papers. They were a silent confession, a doorway into someone else's hidden world, and I felt both terrified and compelled by what I might discover. I paused, hands trembling slightly, heart hammering against my ribs. Should I turn away? Or should I step inside and uncover the truth that Jason, or someone close to him, had left behind? The silence between us, the walls, even the scattered papers, seemed to hum with meaning. And in that moment, I realized that this night would change everything. A shiver ran down my spine as I reached for the notebook. Whatever I was about to learn, it wouldn't just affect Jason. It would ripple through our home, our family, our lives. And yet, a strange certainty steadied me. Some truths demand to be seen, no matter how unsettling. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, but it did little to dispel the lingering tension from the night before. I sat at the kitchen table, cradling a cup of coffee that had gone cold, staring at the wall as though it might somehow give me answers. Jason had left for his morning classes without a word, leaving the house in an uneasy quiet that pressed against me. The notebook, still on the hallway floor, beckoned like an unsolved puzzle I wasn't sure I was ready to confront. Jason was always the kind of person who held his thoughts close, hiding them behind a carefully maintained calm. He had grown up in the wake of his mother's absence, and my husband's long hours at work, shaping him into someone fiercely self-reliant, guarded, and wary of intrusion. I had tried to bridge the gap, to earn his trust, but there were limits to what even the most patient efforts could achieve. And yet, seeing those scattered papers had reminded me that no matter how distant he seemed, there were parts of him yearning to be understood. Our family had always been a delicate balancing act. My husband, David, a man of quiet authority and subtle humor, relied on me more than he admitted, especially in maintaining a household still negotiating old resentments and new roles. And while Jason and I had shared cordial interactions, sometimes laughter over a TV show, occasionally the silent comfort of coexisting in the same space, there had never been a moment like last night. Something unspoken hovered between us, a tension neither of us had yet acknowledged. As I moved through the house, every detail reminded me of the duality of our lives. The laughter and warmth mingled with secrets and small, unspoken resentments. The scent of laundry detergent in the hallway, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the cluttered shelves of Jason's room, they were all ordinary, mundane. And yet, after last night, they seemed charged with hidden significance. Every object, every shadow, felt like it might conceal a truth I wasn't ready to face. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about the notebook or the papers. It was about the fractures in our family. The things we'd left unspoken for too long. And with each passing moment, the weight of anticipation grew heavier. What if the letters contained more than simple musings? What if they revealed choices, alliances, or secrets that could shift the fragile balance of our household? By mid-morning, I realized that curiosity had become a force I could no longer resist. I would have to open that notebook, confront whatever truths it held, and finally step into the unknown that Jason, unknowingly or otherwise, had placed before me. The questions it raised weren't going to wait quietly in the corner any longer, and as I lingered in the doorway, my hand hovering above the notebook, I knew that once I took that step, nothing would ever feel the same again. The notebook felt heavier than I expected in my hands, its cover smooth but worn, as if it had traveled through countless unseen moments. Sitting on the edge of Jason's bed, I hesitated, the words inside poised to either clarify or shatter the fragile understanding I thought I had. My fingers brushed the first page and I began to read, each sentence drawing me deeper into a world I hadn't imagined existed in my home. Jason's thoughts spilled onto the pages, uncertain, vulnerable, and raw. They revealed a side of him I rarely glimpsed, his fears, frustrations, and moments of quiet rebellion. I read about late-night escapades, friendships I hadn't known, and conversations kept secret for reasons I couldn't yet comprehend. The tension in me mounted, part awe, part fear. How could someone so close yet so distant carry such a hidden life right under my roof? A sudden knock on the door made me startle. "Mom," Jason's voice, cautious but tinged with concern, made my chest tighten. I didn't respond immediately, unsure of what to say. He stepped inside, eyes flicking to the notebook in my lap. What are you doing?" His tone was careful, guarded, like he was testing the waters before fully diving in. I found this," I said, lifting the notebook slightly. "I didn't mean to pry, but I think you left it out for someone to see. Or maybe, I don't know." My voice wavered, betraying the mix of frustration and concern swirling within me. Jason's eyes widened, and he hesitated before stepping closer. You shouldn't read that," he whispered. There was an edge to his voice, a mixture of fear and embarrassment, but also a hint of relief, as though part of him had been waiting for someone to notice. "It's personal, not because I want to hide things from you, but because it's complicated." I nodded slowly, sensing the weight behind his words. "I know it's complicated, Jason. I want to understand." The silence that followed was dense and layered, each second stretching longer than the last. His eyes flicked away, and I realized that this wasn't just about curiosity or secrets. It was about trust, about the fragile threads holding our family together. As the morning sunlight shifted across the floor, I felt a strange mixture of anxiety and resolve. The notebook had opened a door I couldn't close, and both of us knew it. Jason's guarded expression softened slightly, but tension lingered like a shadow over the room. We were standing at the edge of revelation, teetering between understanding and conflict, neither fully certain what the next step should be. And yet beneath it all, I sensed that confronting these truths, however uncomfortable, was inevitable. We could pretend nothing had changed, or we could step into the unknown together, facing the consequences of honesty and the vulnerabilities it demanded. My hand rested on the notebook, and I knew, with a certainty that was both thrilling and terrifying, that the real story had only just begun. The room seemed to shrink around us as Jason finally took a seat on the bed, his shoulders hunched and eyes fixed on the floor. I stayed standing, notebook in hand, unsure whether to sit or give him space. The silence between us was thick, a tangible presence that held its own weight. Finally he spoke, his voice low and hesitant. "I didn't want anyone to find out like this," he admitted, glancing up briefly. There's been things going on that I didn't know how to explain, even to myself." His words trembled, revealing the vulnerability he usually kept locked away. I could see the struggle in him, the fear of judgment, the hope for understanding, and the weight of carrying secrets too long. I sat beside him cautiously. "You don't have to hide from me, Jason. I just want the truth, even if it's messy." My tone was soft, urging trust without demanding it. He swallowed hard, running a hand through his hair, and then, slowly, he began to unravel the story he had kept tucked away in the pages I held. It wasn't what I expected. The letters and notes weren't confessions of rebellion or mischief. They were fragments of a secret friendship, one that had grown complicated over the past year. Jason had been helping a close friend, Mark, through a difficult time, often staying up late writing letters and planning interventions without wanting to worry anyone. The secrecy had been protective, not deceptive, and each note was a piece of care disguised as mystery. As he explained, I felt a mixture of relief and regret. Relief that the fears I hadn't dared voice were unfounded, and regret that my imagination had twisted ordinary acts into something ominous. The tension in the room slowly loosened as his story filled the air, each sentence weaving clarity into the fog of my assumptions. "You should have told me sooner," I said, my voice a whisper. I was scared I'd misunderstood everything. He nodded, eyes glistening with a mix of shame and relief. "I didn't know how. I thought I was protecting everyone, but I see now that secrecy only made things worse." In that quiet moment, the complexity of our lives became starkly apparent. Trust isn't built in grand gestures. It's nurtured in the small, vulnerable confessions that test the bonds we often take for granted. The notebook, once a symbol of hidden turmoil, had become a bridge, connecting our fractured understanding and revealing the depth of Jason's compassion and responsibility. As sunlight streamed through the curtains, illuminating the scattered papers on the floor, I realized that this revelation had changed more than just what I knew about Jason. It had shifted the way I saw him, and perhaps the way he saw me, a step closer to honesty, empathy, and mutual respect. And while there were still questions left unspoken, the weight of unshared secrets had lifted, leaving space for trust to grow, fragile but real, in its wake. The days that followed felt quieter, yet somehow fuller, as if the house itself had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. Jason moved through the rooms with a lighter step, and I noticed him lingering more often, sharing small updates about his classes, his friends, even the little frustrations of daily life. Our interactions, once polite and distant, now carried a subtle warmth, the unspoken acknowledgement of trust slowly knitting itself between us. I often thought back to that night, the notebook, the scattered papers, the tension that had made every heartbeat seem louder than it should have been. It was strange how one moment could shift everything, how a simple act of revelation could alter the dynamics of a family in ways both delicate and profound. I realized that understanding isn't about knowing every detail. It's about creating space for honesty, however messy, however incomplete. David noticed it too, though he never commented directly. The small changes, a shared glance in the kitchen, the quiet laughter that occasionally echoed from Jason's room, spoke louder than any words could. He had always been patient, a steady presence in a house that often felt unpredictable. And now, seeing the subtle realignment of our family, he allowed himself a rare smile of relief. For my part, I felt a mix of pride and humility. I had feared the worst, imagined scenarios that never existed, and yet, I had also learned something vital about patience, trust, and the courage it takes to carry hidden burdens. Jason's secrecy hadn't been a betrayal. It had been a protective measure, an expression of care shaped by uncertainty. Recognizing that, and responding with compassion rather than judgment, was a lesson I knew I wouldn't forget. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden light through the living room windows, I found Jason sitting quietly with the notebook open beside him, now filled with neatly rewritten entries, reflections, and plans. He looked up and smiled, a small, genuine gesture that spoke of relief and reconciliation. I nodded to him, silently acknowledging the journey we had both traversed. I understood then that life in a blended family would always be layered, complex, and sometimes uncomfortable. Secrets and misunderstandings were inevitable, but so were moments of clarity and connection. It was in those moments, brief and fragile as they might be, that the true strength of our bonds revealed itself. As I closed the door to Jason's room that night, I felt a quiet sense of closure, tempered by the knowledge that our story was ongoing. There would be challenges, miscommunications, and new layers of understanding yet to unfold. But for the first time, I felt certain of one thing. Honesty, even when difficult, could illuminate the hidden corners of our lives and allow love and trust to grow in ways I had never anticipated. And that, more than anything, made the uncertainty worthwhile.